great employee gift from my boss, ESPN Patagonia sweatshirt on. I hardly ever get cold, and I hardly ever wear sweatshirts. I don't think I've ever worn a sweatshirt on this show, but it's freezing outside. It's amazing because it's going to get, I don't know, somewhere between 35 and 45 degrees colder than this at some point in the next couple of months. But when it first hits, you're just not used to it yet, right? So I was shoveling the walk, and I was like, I need to go put on a sweatshirt. So here we are. Winter is here. I'm going to a basketball game tonight, so I'm sort of in the winter mood. We got tons to get to today, so we got to get rolling. Sam Herder, Hero Sports, will join us here in just a quick minute. We'll talk about the first round of the FCS playoffs and other storylines that are going on around the country. We will also hear from Adam Jones and Eli Gilbin, two of the best running backs in the United States of America. Jones was an honorable mention All-League pick this year after a second-team All-League season last year at Montana State. He was dinged up a little bit early on, but still had a great year. So he is our Montana State Minute this week. Eli Gilman, the Big Sky Conference Offensive Player of the Year this year, caught up with Eli earlier this week. So this will be a little bit more of an extended one. Sorry, yesterday our Grizz interview got cut off. I was very much looking forward to talking with Kellen Dietrich, Havre Montana's finest. But, a Tuesday practice after a bye week in December in the playoffs going long under Bobby Hauck is pretty much the most predictable thing in the history of the world. I knew they were going to be late yesterday. I knew we were going to have no time. So it's all good. I basically just wanted to get some quotes for the feature I'm writing about Kellen Dietrich, just about his experience with the Grizz and how he's made it to this point, because he certainly had a ton of struggles for the first 4 years, but he's had a great year, especially the second half of this fifth and final year with the Grizz. So sorry that got cut short a little bit yesterday, but a more elongated Grizz football conversation with Eli Gilman coming up. And basically the whole second hour is going to be jam-packed of Grizz football. Tanner Castora, who is a freelance multimedia journalist, he's producing content in a variety of capacities, which I respect and also think is the key to success in new age media. He has covered South Dakota State for the last 5 years, and he's a really sharp guy. I connected with him on social media because his stuff is really good. It's very informative. It's a very easy way to follow South Dakota State. He and I did a podcast earlier this year when South Dakota State and Montana State were going to play in the second week of the regular season. And he was great. And I was like, okay, I got to remember this guy. We got to get him back on. Well, he and I have stayed in touch because it's just great to have resources around the FCS to let you know what's going on here, there, and everywhere. And then, of course, South Dakota State's coming to Missoula this week, so I wanted to get back in touch with Tanner. So he'll be our ESPN Roundtable guest at the top of the 5 o'clock hour. So there you go, jam-packed show coming your way here on this Wednesday. You want to stream it? You always can. 1029ESPN.com. You can also always use the ESPN MT app. You can also always use YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And if you'd like to be a part of the show, 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. Call it, text it, anytime. And, of course, we are coming to you through the Grizzly Disposal Studio. Grizzly Disposal, locally owned, veteran-owned. You want to make the switch to locally owned waste management today? Call 406-541-7171. That's 541-7171. Grizzly Disposal, the only Bears that should be in your garbage. 2 basketball briefs quickly. It is the Summit League Big Sky Conference Challenge begins tonight. I'm going down to Dahlberg Arena to check out Montana, North Dakota State. St. Thomas is in Bozeman to take on the Montana State men. The Montana State women are in Fargo to take on NDSU, and the Montana women are in Grand Forks to take on North Dakota. So sort of a little round robin with the Summit League, and so I'm looking forward to getting my first look at the Grizz live. I've seen them on television many times, but I have not seen them live. Their home games were in the middle of the rivalry week, in the middle of the Thanksgiving holiday. So excited to see the Grizz. The other basketball note, Taylor Chirick, deservingly so. Roberts, Montana's finest. She's a sophomore at Montana State. She's the Big Sky Conference Player of the Week for the second week in a row in women's basketball. She scored 21 points, grabbed 7 rebounds, and had the go-ahead, which ended up being the game-winning bucket in Montana State's 71-70 win at Colorado in Boulder on Sunday. That's probably the best non-conference win by a Big Sky Conference basketball team so far this year, and Taylor Chirick led the way. Time for Inside the FCS, probably presented by Paradise Falls of Missoula. Sam Herder, our guest. He is the senior FCS analyst for Hero Sports and BetMGM, covering the FCS on a national level. Sam, thanks for being here, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you, as always, for having me.
Of course, man. Good to have you. Fun having you here. First of all, what did you think of just the way that the playoff seeds played out and then the way that the seeds sort of held? I know we talked about the various draws last week. It was basically chalk, not necessarily chalk in terms of the home team or the higher seed, but chalk in terms of the power conferences. The only one that lost was Youngstown State, of course, because of the epic comeback by Yale. What did you think about the way that it sort of just all went according to plan in the first round of the FCS playoffs this last weekend?
Yeah, I think some of them, 3 unseeded teams won. And so if you look at the seeds, it didn't go chalk, but I think some of them, like if you look at the spreads, I want to say UND was like a 1.5 point favorite at Tennessee Tech.
They were.
I believe Illinois State was either a 3-point favorite or a 3-point underdog. I can't remember specifically.
Illinois State was a 3-point underdog, but they were minus odds on the money line. So that means they were giving the home team some points, but they thought that actually Illinois State had the best chance to win. Interesting.
Okay. And honestly, I felt pretty good about Illinois State winning that one. So maybe just in my mindset, I was thinking that they were the favorite. Probably the biggest surprise was Yale beating Youngstown State, especially in the fashion that they did it. With that epic comeback for Yale. Villanova beating Harvard like they did. I thought Villanova would win, but I was definitely not expecting a blowout like that. But other than that, the results kind of went as we expected, and that kind of leads us into a second round game. Or a second round weekend here where I think we have a lot of exciting matchups. Honestly, in my opinion, there's 2 gimme games. I think Montana State is certainly going to win, probably pretty dominantly for Montana State. Same thing with NDSU. But the other 6 games to me are all pretty much coin flip games. I'm still kind of toying back and forth who I'm going to predict for the other 6 games. And so I think we should be in store for a pretty fun round here.
Well, the Missouri Valley got 6 teams in. That was somewhat controversial, but for those that really pay attention closely to the FCS, especially the 2 leagues out west, maybe not so much controversial. I actually thought that I know that none of the Big Sky teams did themselves any favors, so that if you're on the bubble and you're on the outside looking in, that's your fault. That's not the committee's fault. But either way, the fact that the Missouri Valley performed well in the first round did not surprise me at all. I know North Dakota sort of limped into the playoffs, and they lost in overtime to South Dakota State. But saw that team live, and they have stuff that a lot of the other FCS teams just don't have. They have really good players on the lines. I love their front 7, so not surprised that North Dakota won. And which of the teams though that won in the first round, Sam, do you think is a team that maybe could continue to make noise? Is there anybody else there? Is there anybody that you think could maybe go on a run after getting the first one out of the way?
Yeah, it could be interesting this weekend. It seems like the playoff always kind of, especially when we're talking about conference strength, it kind of swings both ways. Like it always seems like, not this year, but in previous years, like the Valley would have a really good first round, or maybe the Big Sky would have a really good first round, and all the Big Sky fans will say, look how good we are. But then the following weekend, things kind of swing the other way. And I wouldn't be surprised if only one Valley team makes it to the quarterfinals after this weekend. NDSU being the most likely. I think South Dakota State, that's probably a 50-50 game going to Montana. But you look at USD going to Mercer. The Yotes are a touchdown underdog. UND is a touchdown underdog going to Tarleton. I think those are all pretty accurate as far as the spreads right there. So I don't know. We'll have to see. I wouldn't be surprised to see 4 Valley teams go on and win and make it to the quarterfinals at the same time. We could kind of see what the playoffs usually, it does in previous years of, one conference is looking really, really strong one week and they have all the bragging rights, but then the next round hits, they don't fare as well. So I'm really, really interested to see, what the Valley does, especially because a lot of these teams are going on the road, whereas it always seems like the SoCon champ would get fed and go on the road into a Valley opponent. Now they get USD at home. They get a Valley opponent at home for Mercer. Same thing with Tarleton. They had to go to USD last year. Now they get UND at home. Can they take advantage of that? It'll be interesting to see.
Sam Herder, Hero Sports here on Nuanez Now, 102.9 ESPN Radio. For those who have not been keeping track, the FCS playoffs started last week, and the scores went like this. Just from left to right, top to bottom, Illinois State beat Southeast Louisiana 21-3. Rhode Island outlasted Central Connecticut State 27-19. Villanova walloped Harvard 52-7. North Dakota pulled away late, but it became a lopsided affair after it was a pretty good game for the first 2.5, 3 quarters. North Dakota won 31-6 over Tennessee Tech. South Dakota State beat New Hampshire 41-3 to advance to play Montana. South Dakota beat Drake 38-17. Abilene Christian outlasts Lamar 38-20, and Yale rallies from a 42-14 deficit to win 43-42 to then set up a first round that looks like this. Your first games or second round, looks like this. 10 o'clock. Lehigh plays Villanova. That's 5 versus 12. Mercer hosts South Dakota, which Sam was just talking about. That's at 10 o'clock as well. That's 6 versus 11. Montana. That's 3 versus 14 against SDSU. That one is a high noon kickoff, as is number 7, Stephen F. Austin against number 10, Abilene Christian. The Bison of North Dakota State kick off at 11 against Illinois State, as do Tarleton State and North Dakota. And then you have the Big Sky After Dark game, which is the FCS National Game of the Week, at least in terms of the national TV exposure, with UC Davis and Rhode Island playing in Davis. First time that UC Davis has been on national TV on their home field. They played on these nationally televised games a couple other times, but never at Davis, so cool opportunity for them. You mentioned, Sam, that a lot of these games seem like coin flips, so where do you want to start? Like, what do you think is the game that's the hardest one to get a beat on?
I think it's probably the South Dakota State going to Montana. It reminds me a lot of the NDSU at Montana State game. Was that in 23?
23, yep.
Yeah. I mean, that it didn't feel like a second-round game. It felt like it probably belonged in the quarterfinals, if not the semifinals. And you kind of feel the same way with this one, just with how South Dakota State looks, or how they looked this last weekend against New Hampshire with Chase Mason back. At the same time, like I kind of thought South Dakota State would be in that 13, 14, 15 seed range at the time of the playoff bracket coming out, because they were 8-4. They had lost 4 of their last 5. At that point, Chase Mason hadn't played yet. We weren't sure if he was coming back. So, I mean, are they better now than a 14 seed? I would say probably yes, but the playoff committee didn't know that, at the time. So it is a tough draw for the Grizz, no doubt about that. At the same time, I do wonder. I mean, frankly, I don't know how good New Hampshire is. I wasn't very high on them. I even had someone last week ask, like, hey, do you hate New Hampshire or something? I'm like, no, New Hampshire doesn't move the needle for me at all. I just don't think they're that good of a football team. And so to see South Dakota State roll them, I wonder if some people maybe are jumping the gun to all of a sudden not crown South Dakota State, but put them in the national championship discussion once again, just with how they looked with Chase Mason back. But, I mean, they still have, I don't know if they've totally made up for some of the other issues that they've had, defensively giving up some explosive plays, like how we don't really know if they've solved that yet, just because that game was in the snow, and New Hampshire really didn't, seem like they wanted to deviate from their original game plan once they got there and the weather wasn't cooperating. So that's the toughest one for me, probably, just because I South Dakota State looked like the old South Dakota State in that first round win. At the same time, like, is that the best gauge we're going to get of South Dakota State? I'm not sure. So that is one that definitely for me is probably toughest to predict.
I'm right there with you, and I'm also on both sides of the fence, because on one hand, I totally agree with you about New Hampshire. They looked totally unprepared and ready for the moment. It was actually stunning, and the fundamental basics, right? The tackling. I mean, they weren't even. It looked like high school fundamental level tackling, and you're going against a blue blood FCS program. It was sort of wild to watch. So I don't know if I put that much stock into that, but you could also just tell operationally how much smoother South Dakota State looked, and also how much more confidence they were playing with. I've been waffling back and forth too, because I totally agree with you. I think this is not just one of the toughest games to pin this week in the second round, but I think it's one of the toughest games to pin, period, in my time covering the Grizz, literally, like ever, like in the last 20 years, because I saw South Dakota State live and in person in Bozeman, and I thought they were pretty good. Not as good as their national championship teams, but that's just nobody is. Those are some of the best teams that we've seen over the last couple decades. But I thought that they were really solid on the defensive front. I thought their defense in general was good. I thought their secondary looked good. I've always been impressed with Mason, even in his spot duty, let alone when he took over as the guy. But I've been waffling between, okay, is is the team I saw in Bozeman or the team I saw lose to Indiana State 24-12 going to show up in Missoula on Saturday? Or is it just somewhere in between those two? And if it is somewhere in between those two, how does that match up with the Grizz? Like that's where I don't know how to get a beat on South Dakota State. I also don't know how Montana's going to respond. A part of me wants to say that Montana's going to respond resoundingly and be very mad about losing the rivalry game to Montana State and take it out on South Dakota State and roll. Another part of me thinks that maybe they are a little bit deflated coming out of the rivalry and coming off their first bye of the year, and maybe it's a complete slugfest, and maybe they get upset by South Dakota State. I don't know. I think I agree with you. I think it's a really, really hard game to pin.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see the Indiana State version of South Dakota State.
Agree.
I think they were kind of just a deer in the headlights after getting stomped by NDSU, and they didn't have Chase Mason at that point. I just don't think they were ready to play. And I think Chase Mason coming back covers up so much for them because he's a really smart football player. He knows where he's going with the ball. He can go through his reads, and that frees up obviously the run game as well. Whereas before, opponents didn't really have any fear at all about South Dakota State's passing game when they were down to their backup quarterback. Now you have to respect that passing game. I don't think Lofton Ozdowski is going to be back, but South Dakota State has like 3-4 guys who are all like capable, reliable receivers, so they can spread it around. I mean, it seems like South Dakota State's offensive line for a good chunk of this season just was not generating a very good push. They've kind of rotated some things around, some of it out of necessity due to injury. But one of their backup guards is now playing center, and he's a massive human being. He's like 6'6", 330 pounds. Whoa. I mean, that's huge for a center, but all of a sudden they're getting a much better push. At the same time, I mean, one of the problems with South Dakota State's offensive line is whether it was a communication thing or the guys just weren't explosive off the ball. It always felt like either the defensive line for the opposition or the linebackers were always knifing through the offensive line and creating either negative plays or just completely throwing the running backs off of where they want to go. Well, that's exactly what Montana wants to do, right? They want to wreak havoc. They want to, live in the backfield and all that. So that's a really interesting matchup right there. I'm also curious about the weather, as well, like looking like it could be a little bit of rain and snow. That might tip its hand to South Dakota State a little bit because if you're Montana, you want to get out in space. You don't necessarily want to, put yourself in a phone booth with South Dakota State and go mano-a-mano that way. So maybe the weather could tip the hands to South Dakota State if they can, looks like they're running downhill much better lately compared to the middle part of the season. So, really interesting matchup here. Two powers going at it. At the same time, too, like Montana was very nearly beat Montana State,
right.
A couple of weekends ago. And I think Montana State is one of the most complete teams, if not the most complete teams in the FCS. So it's that weird 2-week break of the last memory we have of the Grizz is them losing, and then they have a bye week, and all of a sudden we're talking about Montana as a national championship contender to now, could they lose in the second round? So
right.
It seems like maybe that's a bit of an overreaction on our part, too, of like maybe, considering like, hey, Montana could bow out of the playoffs early. That would have been just unthinkable even 2 weeks ago.
So much of it's though because it's South Dakota State. I mean, that's the thing,
right? Yeah,
right? Like even if this was UND or Illinois State or any of these other teams, even Tarleton State or anybody like that, it's just because this is the team that's ended Montana's season the last couple of years. This is the only team that's broken through and gotten a national championship, let alone two of them. I know every team and every season is different, and that's particularly true now, this day and age, but it's just a really good team that's going to be able to match Montana in a lot of ways, just in terms of their physicality and their want to and their desire and all the things that they know about winning in the playoffs. So I expect an awesome game in Missoula on Saturday. I can't wait. Sam Herder inside the FCS, proudly presented by Paradise Falls of Missoula. Need a place to watch any of these FCS playoff games? Head on down to Paradise Falls. They'll have food and drink specials all Saturday long. Watch college football in Paradise at Paradise Falls, 3621 Brook Street in Missoula. I'm interested in Tarleton State and North Dakota, Sam, because certainly a lot of people that don't follow the FCS as closely, certainly as you do or even as close as I do, were a little bit skeptical of Tarleton State's ranking throughout the year. Certainly they had a really good record, and they had an FBS win over Army. They dropped one to Abilene Christian. which maybe some people might think Abilene Christian deserved a little bit higher seed than a 10, but either way, Tarleton's the 4. North Dakota's a team that I think people in Missoula saw and know how talented they are. They took NDSU down to the wire, probably gave NDSU their biggest scare of the year this year. But on the other hand, they're a 7-5 team. I guess they're an 8-5 team now after last week's win. Break down this game for us, because a part of me wants to say that I think North Dakota can go in there and get it done. But then another part of me thinks, well, maybe I just am overrating North Dakota because I saw them take the Grizz down to the wire back in September.
Yeah, I think Tarleton is the more talented team overall, but UND has the edge in the trenches. UND's offensive line is one of the better ones in the FCS, and their defensive line might be playing like a top 3, top 2 units in the FCS.
Yep.
They've been playing at such a high level, especially down the stretch. I mean, they just absolutely overwhelmed Tennessee Tech in the first round. I know that was a pretty decisive win at the end there, but it was 10-6 going into the fourth quarter. It really was a defensive battle. Then UND's defensive line just continued to wreak havoc. They forced 4 fumbles on Disparis, and then UND kind of rolled there in the fourth quarter. And it's going to come down to the trenches, in my opinion, this upcoming weekend. UND might be without their starting quarterback, Jerry Kaminsky. He took a pretty big shot to the head last weekend. He's in concussion protocol. And going through, that whole process. I don't know if he'll be ready to go or not for this weekend. UND is a good rushing attack. And Tarleton State, I like their run defense as far as like the talent they have. They have a really good defensive tackle. They have 2 really good defensive ends. All of their top linebackers from last year have pretty much come back. So I like the talent they have in the run defense, but statistically, there have been some teams throughout this year that have found success on Tarleton's run defense. So that'll be interesting right there. Then on the flip side, I don't know how many people have watched Tarleton State play, but it's an interesting offense to watch. They're not necessarily an air raid offense. They do like to establish the ground game. They have a multitude of running backs that can make you hurt, but they kind of run this slow RPO, slow mesh where, the quarterback will literally put it in the gut of the running back for, 2 seconds. And then depending on what the linebackers are doing, he's either going to give it or he's going to pull it. And it really puts the linebackers in a conflict, because if they're coming up to read run, because they see, the running back's kind of got it in his gut here. What are we doing? Okay, let's go get him. The quarterback's going to pull it late and hit those underneath routes. The problem with that slow mesh route is, or that slow mesh concept, is if your offensive line can't hold up, things can collapse in a hurry, and this throws everything off. And UND has had the ability to get home, just rushing 4. So if they can really collapse that pocket quickly, that's going to completely throw Tarleton State off of its game. At the same time, it is difficult to kind of adjust to. Last year's USD team, the South Dakota team, that was a really, really good defense, and Tarleton put up 30-plus points on them before the Yotes kind of got a grasp of what to do, how to in-game adjust and defend that. So it's another really intriguing matchup to see what plays out here. Is it the more overall talented team with great speed, or is it the team that has the edge in the trenches?
If Tarleton can effectively block North Dakota, I'll be impressed, because I thought North Dakota's defensive line, I agree. You said they're playing really well right now. I thought they were really good when I saw them in September. I thought that's one of the best defensive fronts I've seen. They have a lot of talent. They get after you, certainly. The switch from the 3-4 to the 4-2-5 has paid dividends, I think, and has sort of modernized how they're playing right now. It gets another defensive lineman on the field, too. And I think they've done a good job in that transition under first-year head coach Eric Schmidt. How about Illinois State, North Dakota State? That's a crazy spread. That's 4 touchdowns. Illinois State's solid, and they had a solid year. Obviously, they're in the playoffs again. Brock Spack's been doing it for a long time. Anyway, the Redbirds can give a scare to the Bison.
Yeah, you kind of feel like NSU is going to be focused coming into this one, just because it is an unfamiliar opponent. And in past years, the Bison have had somewhat of a slower starts in playoffs. Abilene Christian jumped up on them last year in the second round. Even Mercer in the quarterfinals, they battled NSU tough for 2.5, 3 quarters before the Bison pulled away. And we've talked about this before. It's kind of the Bison fan base. They're expecting national title runs, and so they don't really sell out the Fargo Dome very well until the semifinals. And so, it could be 11,000 people in the Fargo Dome, and it might be a bit of a sleepy atmosphere, and maybe that impacts the NDSU players, where Illinois State is able to kind of take advantage of that, so to speak, and kind of hang in there. At the same time, it seems like Tim Polsek does a really good job of getting NDSU ready to play, especially in big moments like this. Illinois State, like you said, they're a solid team. They have some really good individual talent, but I don't know exactly how they're going to fare against NDSU here. It was a one-score game going into the fourth quarter when these two played earlier this year, and then NDSU kind of turned it on. So we'll see what Illinois State can do. They're not like, if this was a Jason Eck coach team, like you can expect some onside kicks and some trickery, but Brock's back is pretty old school, and like I don't know how much they're going to deviate from their usual game plan. Like they'll throw some wrinkles in there and all that, maybe give some exotic looks, but at the end of the day, Illinois State is probably going to try to do what they always try to do, and good on good. I just don't know how well they're going to match up with NDSU in this one.
Last one for you then, Rhode Island at UC Davis. Good opportunity for Davis for a nationally televised game from Aggie Stadium. And Davis has had an interesting and weird year. First with the week 0 situation with the no contest against Mercer and then all the injuries that they've had. But here they are, a playoff seed again, and Tim Plows 2 for 2, getting his team first-round buys. Yet the book sees this one as just a straight-up even, basically, maybe a point and a half, 2.5 points, depending on where you look. Rhode Island is a team that has sort of quietly been the dominant team in the new-look CAA. What gives Rhode Island a fighting chance, and what's your take on Saturday night's game?
Yeah, Rhode is a really good offensive team. Devin Farrell, their quarterback, he's one of the leading passing yards leaders in the FCS. They also have a 1,000-yard running back, so they are pretty well balanced. But in my opinion, if they're going to win, if Rhode has a chance to win this game, they're going to need a big game from Farrell. One of his wide receivers, Marquise Buchanan, he's an elite wide receiver. He's really, really good. I think he could potentially have a big day just because, as you've talked about, Davis has, plenty of injuries, a lot of it on the defensive side of the football. So it could be a bit of a higher scoring game. Overall, I still like UC Davis, just with, home field. Hopefully they can get a pretty good crowd there. You give Tim Plow and that offensive staff an extra week to kind of, scheme some things up. I think Rhode's defense is solid. I believe they allow under 20 points per game, which is solid. AJ Pena is a really, really good defensive end for them. So they do. Rhode is a talented team. I just don't know depth of talent-wise how they stack up. So I would favor UC Davis here, but I could see it just sort of getting into a shootout sort of thing. And Caden Pinnock has thrown some bad interceptions, and so if all of a sudden it's a shootout and Rhode goes up by 7 and it's 35-28 or whatever, and Pinnock throws a bad interception, all of a sudden that really puts the pressure on Davis's defense to get a stop there. So I think turnovers will be key in this one because both offenses, I think, could find a lot of success.
Inside the FCS, presented by Paradise Falls, Sam Herder joins us each Wednesday here on Nuanez Now. Sam, appreciate the time as always, and have yourself a great evening, but thanks so much for chiming in here today.
Yeah, thank you as always for having me.
The second round looks like this once again. By the way, Inside the FCS, probably presented by Paradise Falls. Go check out the FCS playoff games. Here's the schedule once again, just in case you're planning your day around this. If you aren't making it down to Washington Grizzly Stadium or Bobcat Stadium, of course, the Grizz and the Cats each kick at noon. You already knew that, though. But Lehigh hosts Villanova at 10 a.m. Mercer hosts South Dakota at 10 a.m. North Dakota State and Illinois State is at 11, as is Tarleton State hosting North Dakota. You also have Stephen F. Austin hosting Abilene Christian at noon, so 3 noon kicks, and then a whole afternoon of no FCS until you get the evening game with UC Davis hosting Rhode Island. So there you go. Appreciate Paradise Falls for the continued support of our Inside the FCS with Sam Herder of Hero Sports. Check out herosports.com. Keep it on the FCS. Adam Jones, Missoula Sentinel product, who is now a sophomore at Montana State. He is our latest Montana State Minute. That's next. Keep it right here. ESPN Radio.
The world's great steakhouses agree. Prime grade beef is hands down best. And first choice at this great steak state's Montana Clubs. Announcing, with abundant Montana Club pride, the new Big Sky Country's Great Steak Escape, starring the top 2 to 3% of all beef. These 12 and 16-ounce USDA prime grade ribeye steaks, cut exclusively for the Montana Club, and are simply the best of the best. Near perfect marbling, the ultimate in flavor and tenderness, butter brushed and irresistibly seasoned to literally melt in your mouth. Available now, exclusively at truly a value you're sure to appreciate. The Great Steak Escape is just waiting for you and the ones you love at your Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Senior Medicare patrols empower and assist Medicare beneficiaries, their families, and caregivers to prevent, detect, and report healthcare fraud, errors, and abuse through outreach and education. In Montana, Senior Medicare Patrol is operated by Missoula Aging Services in cooperation with area agencies on aging across Montana. To contact your closest office, call 800-551-3191. This project is supported by a grant by the Administration for Community Living.
It's Vertex Fitness's 5-year anniversary, and to celebrate, Vertex is hosting Membership Appreciation Week through December 5th, featuring daily check-in prizes and giveaways to thank members for their continued support. Vertex Fitness has been committed to serving Missoula in health and community by hosting events like the Zootown Challenge, which has donated more than $60,000 to Special Olympics and Opportunity Resources, Inc. For more information on Vertex Fitness and their commitment to the community, visit vrtxfitness.com.
Missoula, get ready. The rivalry takes the ice as Grizz Hockey battles Montana State at the Glacier Ice Rink Friday night at 7:30. Don't forget, it's the annual Teddy Bear Toss. Bring a new stuffed animal and launch it onto the ice after the Grizz score their first goal. All teddy bears will be donated to Watson's Children's Shelter to help make the holidays brighter for our community. Hard hits, big goals, and Cat Grizz. Friday night at 7:30 inside the Glacier Ice Rink. Be there and bring a bear.
Canyon River Golf Club is the premier public golf course in Montana, but after enjoying one of the great seasons in the golf course's history, the club is officially closed for the season. But if you're a golf enthusiast, you're already dreaming about next golf season, so give the gift of golf from Canyon River. Canyon River's early season rates for season passes, cart passes, and more are now available at a special holiday and early season price. To buy your pass, visit CanyonRiverGolfClub.com today.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Montana and Montana State cleaned up on the All Big Sky lists released last week. Hello, I'm Jeff Safford. The league released its annual All-Conference Awards and teams the day before Thanksgiving. Montana running back Eli Gilman was named the league's Offensive Player of the Year. Montana State safety Caden Dowler was named the league's Defensive Player of the Year. MSU junior quarterback Justin Lampson was named the league's Newcomer of the Year. And Montana State fifth-year head coach Brett Vegan was named the league's Coach of the Year. Gilman rushed for 1,262 yards and scored 19 touchdowns to earn the award. He headlined a group of 18 Grizzlies who were named All-Conference, including 5 on the first-team offense and 2 more on the first-team defense. Quarterback K-Ali'i Ayat, tight end Evan Schaefer, left tackle Cannon Panfloff, and slasher Michael Wortham as an all-purpose player were named to the first-team offense. Defensive end Hunter Peck and linebacker Peyton Wing were named to the first-team defense. A total of 16 Bobcats landed on the All-Conference list, with 4 earning first-team All-League for the 2-time reigning league champions. Dowler was joined on the defense by defensive lineman Paul Brott and Kenneth Eden. Taco Dowler, Caden's twin brother, was named first-team All-League as a punt returner and second-team as a wide receiver.
Nuanez Now on ESPN Radio.
Welcome back. 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, and the ESPN MT app. Colter Nuanez coming to you through the Grizzly Disposal Studio. Grizzly Disposal, locally owned, veteran-owned, the only Bears that should be in your garbage. I've been seeing the people at Game Day Men's Health, which is a men's health clinic, pretty self-explanatory. But they take your blood. They tell you, okay, here's what you got. Here's what you need, basically. Vitamins, minerals, other sorts of hormonal levels, stuff like that. And they got me on like a vitamin and mineral regimen, and I'm sleeping better. I'm feeling better. My brain fog, as they would call it, is dissipated quite a bit. It's pretty cool. If you want to feel better, let Game Day Men's Health help you. Visit GameDayMen'sHealth.com or swing by 3760 Mullen Road in Missoula. Time for our Montana State Minute. It's probably presented by the Bobcat Collective. Got up with a Missoulian who's now a standout for the Bobcats. Montana State Minute. Now we're back for the playoffs. Bobcats a much-deserved week off last week after receiving a first-round bye. They are the Big Sky champs for the third time in 4 years. A native of Missoula and a sophomore for the Bobcat football team. A captain, Adam Jones, joins us now here on ESPN Radio. Adam, thanks for being here, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
First of all, you got to tell us about the scene in Missoula a couple weeks ago. We got a great picture of you and Zach Cruz and Dylan Rollins and a couple of the other former Sentinel Spartans carrying the trophy around. What a cool moment for you guys to come back to your hometown and get a victory. So just take us through it. What did you love about it? What was the moment like when you realized that you're Big Sky champs again after a rivalry win in Missoula?
Overall, it was a pretty special day, but we knew that Montana was a great football team. We knew it was going to be a challenge, and we wanted it to be a 12-round fight, and I think that's what we got with them. And it was just, it is a really tough place to play in. After going to a million games as a kid, nothing can quite prepare you for actually being in that moment. So I think just how we prepared in the week and just all the dudes that were bought in and how Justin played and just the overall offense, I think handled the environment well, and I think that's kind of what led to the offensive side having some success.
Well, the last couple of weeks, your guys' last couple of games, you've played two of the top 8 teams in the country, UC Davis and Bozeman, and then Montana and Missoula. So how much confidence do those wins give you guys now going into the playoffs?
A ton. I think, this team keeps continuing to raise the bar, and that's kind of what we have been preaching every single week. And I think the confidence that we have in the defense and the special teams and just this overall team as a whole is at an all-time high, which is pretty fun. It's pretty special to say that going into the playoffs, because I think you know how it goes. You got to peak at the right time, and the second you let off the gas a little bit, there could be a team that can take you down. I think we're all just grateful to be in this moment, but we're far from satisfied. So.
Well, that seems like something that's driven you guys forward all year long. I know that Brett Vegan has talked extensively about, just the process of getting better week in and week out, and he's talked about how hungry you guys have been to get better. So in your mind, where has this team improved, and what has helped you reach this level that you're at right now coming into the postseason?
We were a young team, and that made us really hungry, and I think where we've grown the most is just experience. I think dudes knew what they could bring to the table. We all knew what they should look like out there, and I think when they finally got all these games under their belt, we have a bunch of dudes that are playing with a ton of confidence, and I think confidence is everything. It can, raise your level of play, and if you lose that, it can be really hard to climb back. So I think just overall confidence of this team has allowed us to play more free, to trust one another, and I think it's been paying off.
Adam Jones joining us here on Nuanez Now, 102.9 ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television and the ESPN MT app. How about Justin Lamson? He's a guy that just impressed me so much throughout the year, but particularly his performance in Missoula. Newcomer of the year, not an unexpected honor for him, but what have you thought of just his poise and his ability to guide you guys from the quarterback position so far this year?
I think you said it well. I mean, we've all been so impressed with him, and we all knew the guy he was going to be. I think throughout fall camp, and just getting to grow with him, we knew that he could do it. And I think just him going out each and every week and proving it, to the rest of the country, I think is something that we all take pride in, and we love that dude. He's super competitive. I think when he's, at the quarterback spot, we're always going to have a chance.
Well, now you have just a sort of a completely different opponent, right? So first of all, did you watch the comeback on Saturday when Yale rallied all the way back to beat Youngstown State?
Yeah, I honestly couldn't believe it. I watched the first half, kind of dozed off for the third quarter, and then I got a text from one of the other running backs, Colson. He was like, "Are you seeing this?" And I was like, "Oh my goodness!" I turned it back on. I couldn't believe it. So I think, like I said, that's kind of how the playoffs are. If you let off the gas, your season can be over like that.
What did you think of just watching, Yale, but also just other FCS teams? It's probably an interesting experience to watch games when you're not like breaking down the film.
Yeah, I think it is a lot different, and I actually really enjoy watching football. So you learn a lot through watching, and I think you can learn a lot from that Yale game. I think Youngstown kind of thought that they had it in the bag, and they came into that second half trying to protect some players, and I don't think you can do that. I think, we got to learn from that. And, yeah, I thought it was a crazy game for sure.
Well, as we talk here, it's only Monday, so I'm sure you haven't completely dove into what the Bulldogs might present, but just early impressions on what you were able to glean on Saturday and also early preparation this week. What are some of your just early thoughts on what will be some of the keys to this matchup on Saturday?
I think, Yale's a solid team on defense. They got a couple really good dudes. I think their nickel is a really good player. I think what it's going to come down to in this playoffs, and not just this game, but every game, we're going to run the ball. I think that's something that we take pride in, especially late into the season when it gets really cold up here, and we're going to push that line of scrimmage. And I think, we're going to continue to throw the ball downfield. So I think just finding ways to do that, motioning dudes, making it hard on the defensive eyes is a big thing for us.
Well, I know you got a taste of it last year with your guys' great run all the way through December into January to go to the national championship game. But when it does turn to December and it is the playoffs and it's winning you're in and losing you go home, how does that change just the mentality of the team collectively?
It can make you uptight for one, but I don't think that's what it really does here. I think it makes us grateful to be in this moment. We understand here that it is an expectation to be in the playoffs at Montana State, but it's also a privilege to be here. So I think, just taking it every moment, especially with these seniors, playing for them, and I think just taking it day by day.
Adam Jones here on Nuanez Now, 102.9 ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. Adam, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much. Best of luck with the weekend. We'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, my favorite guy's to interview. It's been cool to watch him grow up. I started interviewing him. He's a sophomore in high school, and now he's a captain and great representative, not just of Montana State, but of Missoula, of Sentinel, of the state of Montana. And that's a pretty cool thing. Montana State plays Yale high noon Saturday in Bozeman. I'm wearing my sweater because it's cold. That means you need to get yourself an automatic car starter from Aspen Sound. I got one. I've actually had it in my last 3 rigs. So awesome. Now I got a garage, so I'm feeling fancy, and we actually have our garage clean and orderly, so I can actually park in it. But I still use the automatic car starter because it gets chilly out there, and you want the car to be nice and warm, especially when I'm taking my little son to daycare. Get yourself an automatic car starter at Aspen Sound. Get on the schedule now, though, because they're getting busy. Visit 1300 West Broadway in Missoula or visit aspensound.com/Missoula. Feel the music at Aspen Sound. I've actually had a gripe for about a week now, and I haven't got a chance to air my grievances. I will. Why the heck is Eli Gilman not on the Walter Payton finalist list? The top 3 finalists got released. That's not my gripe. He wasn't even on the top 36. How? How is this possible? We'll discuss next. Keep it right here. 102.9 ESPN Radio. You know all that gunk that gets stuck on the bottom of your car? It's nice that the city of Missoula de-ices the roads for us, but that stuff can really hurt your paint job and erode the undercarriage of your rig. That's why it's important to keep your car clean all winter long at Dazzler's Car Wash. Get yourself an unlimited membership at Dazzler's Car Wash. For just $37 a month, you can get your car washed every single day. Treat your car like it deserves to be treated at Dazzler's Car Wash of Missoula, located at 2610 Radio Way in the Garden City.
If you're in search of a trading card of your favorite player, or if your kids are, swing into Zootown Sports Cards. If there's a card of a player you're searching for, Zootown Sports Cards has the cards. With an almost endless collection of singles and inserts, whatever and whoever you're in the market for, Zootown Sports Cards has it. 1990s NBA stars, Zootown has it. 2000s football players, Zootown has it. And looking through the collection is half of the fun. Come check out all of what Zootown Sports Cards has to offer in the Stevens Center in Missoula.
If you live to serve and want to make an even bigger difference, consider joining the United States Army. With training in fields like medical care, linguistics, and engineering, an Army career can amplify your efforts with humanitarian opportunities all over the world. Plus, you'll receive competitive pay and incredible benefits, so you'll be taken care of too. Learn more at GoArmy.com. For more information, call 406-399-6286 or visit the Missoula Army Recruiting Station at 2401 North Reserve Street to talk to a local career counselor.
Choosing where to bank is a no-brainer. Choose Farmer State Bank, a community bank that's helped Western Montana grow since 1907. Our focus has always been local. Things like an annual $10,000 scholarship in each and every community we're located in, or donations to the local causes and organizations you care about. For a bank that supports you and the community you live in, choose Farmer State Bank. 10 brick-and-mortar locations and online at farmersebank.com. An equal housing lender and member FDIC.
Red's Bar is a beloved institution in downtown Missoula. Whether you want to watch a game, enjoy a cold beer, spend time with friendly faces, or simply wind down, the welcoming atmosphere and wonderful staff at Red's will make you feel right at home. Red's features 14 HD TVs and 2 full-service bars. Stop by and grab a beer with friends while you watch your favorite team play and check out the extensive collection of awesome sports memorabilia. Red's Bar in downtown Missoula, the friendliest sports bar in town.
It's a rematch of the 2023 National Championship game as Montana hosts South Dakota State in an epic playoff battle between 2 blue bloods of the FCS. It's Grizz versus Jackrabbits, Saturday at noon from the Mecca of FCS football. Tickets are available now for $40. Visit gogrizz.com/tickets to secure your seats today. Then use your football ticket for half-off admission to Saturday night's Lady Grizz basketball game versus St. Thomas. We'll see you Saturday.
It's Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Watch the show statewide on SWX Montana Television.
Feels like I'm losing time at a breakneck pace. I've been a now shadow in the face of grace. Spotlight on my face. There was love all around me, but I was looking for revenge. Thank God it never found me. When it be in the air.
He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT blues guitar player and singer. I don't think that there is an argument, but I just think he's the best. Stevie Ray Vaughan. On the way back here on Nuanez Now. Appreciate you for hanging with us here on this Wednesday. I'm Colter Nuanez coming to you through the Grizzly Disposal Studio. Florence Coffee is here for the holidays with real eggnog lattes and other holiday treats. Florence Coffee has gift card deals, and their holiday blend is roasted fresh weekly. Warm holiday greetings to you from Florence Coffee, and as always, you can visit FlorenceCoffeeCo.com. All right, I got a gripe, and we're going to give you wings here in a minute, so don't worry. I just got to yell about something for a minute because it drives me crazy in sports when we think that there needs to be equity and equality just in terms of the analysis of it. Opportunity, I'm in. I want equal opportunity for people to play sports at all levels. But in terms of analyzing it, deciphering it, not all things are created equal, and when we try to pretend like they are, it's just silly. You're just making up lies. My gripe here is that 2 weeks ago, the Walter Payton Award finalist list came out, basically the final ballot. So there's a watch list that comes out in August, and then there's a finalist list that comes out in November. And it's basically, okay, here's the guys that the people can vote for. Now, it's a total aside of a conversation. Who votes? This used to be a national media poll that included independent media sources like us here at ESPN Radio as well as Skyline Sports. I used to have 2 votes in the national polls. My conglomeration did, but Skyline Sports had 2. And in the olden days, ESPN Montana absolutely would have had 1 too. Used to be 166 voters across the country voting for the top 25 and the national awards, weekly and the national awards at the end of the year. Walter Payton Award, Buck Buchanan Award, Jerry Rice Award, Eddie Robinson Award. Basically offensive, defensive players of the year, freshman of the year, coach of the year. I used to love voting in them. I used to take it very seriously. I used to follow and look up statistics each and every week. Well, first of all, the voting got altered when the pandemic hit, because there was a spring season in which about 50 of the 125 FCS programs participated in, but about 75 didn't participate in it. Most of the teams in the Big Sky and both the teams in Montana did not participate in it. I, during that time, told the people that at the organization that runs the voting, I said, hey, I'm not going to probably vote during the spring season because I'm probably just not going to watch that much of it, because it's just not a real season, because everybody's not playing and the teams that I directly cover are not playing. And I'm certainly not going to travel to go cover, Weber State, Cal Poly in the middle of April. And that caused a whole kerfuffle. And then so many other people were on my same page not covering the spring season. The whole voting panel got disbanded, and then all of a sudden there was a new voting panel. There was a whole bunch of new voters. That's a whole different thing. I could have a gripe about that for forever, because I think that they've picked a whole bunch of voters that maybe aren't as objective as maybe you need to be. That's a total other aside, though. What I'm griping about here is that the Walter Payton Award watch list turned into the Walter Payton Award finalist list that you could vote on. 35 players were on that list, including 9 running backs. Eli Gilman was not one of those. That's completely asinine. It's not even possible that he wasn't one of the people. Like it's almost as if he was forgotten or something, or it was like a typo. They just left him off. I don't know how you could do this. But then the egg on the face for Stats Perform and the analyst, the website and the company that puts these awards out, because the finalist list came out before the Big Sky Conference Offensive Player of the Year came out. Eli Gilman then wins Big Sky Conference Offensive Player of the Year. So you have the dude who's the top offensive player in the best or second best, whichever way you want to rank him, conference in the country. So then, therefore, the transitive property indicates that this guy is, at the very worst, one of the 3 best running backs in the country, if not the definitive best running back in the country. And that guy's not even on the ballot. So now for the people that have followed it, it's a mockery, because the guy that they thought was going to be there, that was going to be getting their votes, isn't there to get their vote. But then also for the people that don't really follow it, the low-hanging fruit isn't there either. Like the guy that maybe doesn't follow the Big Sky that close, but they know the Big Sky is pretty good. So you go to vote for the Walter Payton Award. You're like, okay, who's the Big Sky Offensive Player of the Year? Oh, Eli Gilman. Oh, let's look at his stats. Oh, he rushed for 1,300 yards. He rushed for 19 touchdowns. Okay, sounds like a pretty good pick. I'll put him on my ballot. So this hurts both. It hurts for the people that follow it and are like, where's this guy at? It hurts for the people that don't follow it, that might have been like still inclined to vote for him. And more than anything, it just hurts for the validity of the award. Whoever wins it, I mean, Bo Brumgard's probably going to win it. He's the quarterback from Youngstown State. He threw for more than 3,000 yards. He rushed for more than 1,500 yards. He had 25-plus passing touchdowns. I think he ended up with like 24 or 25 rushing touchdowns. He had a stupidly good statistical season. But his team also went 8-5. And his team's also one and done in the playoffs. So, okay, great. You were the straw that stirs the drink. You got a bunch of offensive production. What does it mean? You lost 4 conference games. I guess you lost 3 conference games into Michigan State, and then you lost to Yale on your home field in the first round of the playoffs to give the Ivy League your first ever victory. I know that this is just like the NBA MVP. The playoffs don't go into this voting, but still, I get it. Brumgard has gaudy stats, and he's from a real league, so I can't really hate on that. But if someone else was to vote, and I'm not even saying Eli Gilman should win the Walter Payton Award. He's just got to be on the list of 35 people. It's not possible that he's not. It's just not possible. Everybody in the country that has ever watched the Grizz play would tell you that guy is one of, if not their most talented players. Everybody that has seen him would tell you he's one of the most productive, durable, and dangerous players in college football. I mean, the guy's got 50 touchdowns already. He's not even a senior in his career. Again, he had 19 touchdowns this year in the top league in the country. Leading rusher in the Big Sky. If you're telling me there's 9 running backs that are better than him, you're wrong. It's not even that I don't believe you. That's incorrect. Then you also think about the transitive property of what if Eli Gilman played in the Patriot League? How about the Pioneer League? How about the Ivy League? How about the Ohio Valley? Dude's rushing for 2,500 yards. I'm literally putting the over-under at 1,850 yards is realistically what I'm putting it at. And I think he's absolutely flirting with, if not annihilating, the 2K mark, right? I mean, he's flirting with 25, high 20s. He's flirting with Sean Alexander touchdown numbers, LaDainian Tomlinson type touchdown numbers. If he plays in one of these leagues that isn't the Big Sky. The dude's got 8 100-yard games. He's been the backbone of Montana's offense. He's the leading rusher in the conference without the Grizz being that dominant on the offensive line. I just can't believe it. Again, I'm not even advocating for him to be the guy who wins the Walter Payton Award. He's just got to be a guy that could get a vote. Like the fact that he got 0 votes because he wasn't even on the ballot, how's that even possible? You're making a mockery of your own award. The dude from the best conference in the country that is the Offensive Player of the Year in the United States, in the best conference in the United States of America at the FCS level, is not on your ballot. So what is your ballot worth? It's worth nothing. I can't believe it. I know that this is something that's really ignited Grizz Nation. People have been going crazy going after Craig Haley and the guys that run Stats Perform, asking about this egregious error. It seems like Stats' solution is to just block everybody on Twitter, which I think is probably the wrong way to go about it. I mean, if those guys want to come on, we'll have them on. I'd love to give you a platform. Tell us about how you go through the votes, how you do all this stuff, who determines the finalists. Because no explanation just means that this is just, you know that it was a crazy mistake, or you're just not willing to be transparent. I don't know. It got me going, and it drove me crazy. Okay, back to the positive note. We got a dozen wings from the Desperado Sports Tavern and Grill for you. If you want some Wing It Wednesday, text us, 406-888-1029. Any and all texts will get you entered in to win. You want a dozen wings for the Despo, 406-888-1029. Desperado's Best Wings in Missoula. They're across from the YMCA on Russell Street. And we give you a chance to win a dozen wings every Wednesday here on 1029 ESPN Radio. Text right now, 406-888-1029. Hour 1 in the books. Hour 2 coming at you. More on the Grizz and South Dakota State. Tanner Castora, he covers SDSU up close and personal. He's making his debut at Washington Grizzly Stadium this weekend, actually. And Eli Gilman, the man I just got done ranting about. Both of those coming your way next. Keep it right here, 1029 ESPN Radio.
Colter Nuanez here from your favorite daily sports talk show, Nuanez Now. I know most of you are like me. You keep your precious car outside in this frigid Montana weather. If you want to change your outlook on those freezing Monday mornings, do what I did. Get yourself an automatic car starter at Aspen Sound. Aspen Sound will install the starter for you efficiently and keep you warm. Aspen Sound can also hook you up with sweet window tinting or a top-notch sound system for your vehicle. Stop by Aspen Sound at 1300 West Broadway in Missoula today.
Feel the music at Aspen Sound.
Colter Nuanez from ESPN Montana here, and I can't tell you how much high-speed fiber internet from Blackfoot Communications has improved my life. It might sound simple, but having lightning-fast upload speeds lets me record video calls in 4K to use on our Nuanez Now radio and television show. It also allows us to produce content with world-class efficiency, and I can work from home even if my wife is streaming her HD TV. If you want to experience the fastest internet speeds possible, you need fiber internet from Blackfoot. Find out more about fiber in your area by visiting blackfoot.com.
What if I told you that you could actually save money this holiday season? As you prepare to decorate and celebrate, remember these tips from Missoula Electric Cooperative. Use a timer to automatically turn off holiday lights when they're not in use. Switch to LED lights. They're brighter, last longer, and use less energy. Inspect holiday lights for frayed wires and avoid overloading outlets. And before you head out of town, unplug small appliances and electronics to save energy and reduce the risk of fire. From the team at Missoula Electric Cooperative, we wish you a safe and joyful holiday season.
When a child has someone who believes in them, the future opens up. At Friends of the Children Western Montana, every child is paired with a professional mentor for 12 plus years. The results are powerful. More graduates, stronger families, and brighter futures. Honored as the outstanding nonprofit organization by United Way's Missoula Nonprofit Center, Friends of the Children is changing lives every day. Join us and give today. Your gift is matched up to $20,000 this holiday season. Help more kids dream big by donating at friendswesternmt.org.
Abigail Coburn of Ryan, Miller, and Coburn Trial Attorneys has an extensive background in criminal defense, particularly federal drug charges.
It's amazing because I think the harder you work, the better outcomes you get for your clients. And so being able to see that immediate result of, while they are doing better, they did get a good result here, and now their life is not forever ruined by the outcome of their criminal case.
You can call Ryan, Miller, and Coburn Law anytime at 406-542-2233. You can also visit online at rmcattorneys.com. Ryan, Miller, and Coburn, your Montana attorneys.
Sometimes it's stressful juggling all your responsibilities on the weekends. You know you need to do your chores. You know you want to spend time with your family, but really, you just want to watch football all day. Paradise Falls is the perfect option for a family-friendly place to hang out and still have a chance to catch all the games. Open 7 a.m. till midnight and offering breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Paradise Falls has 30 big screen TVs, ESPN 3 capabilities, and much, much more. Swing on by Paradise Falls on Brook Street anytime you're in the mood for some food or some football. Paradise Falls, 3621 Brook Street, Missoula's coolest hotspot.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Montana and Montana State cleaned up on the All Big Sky lists released last week. Hello, I'm Jeff Safford. The league released its annual All-Conference Awards and teams the day before Thanksgiving. Montana running back Eli Gilman was named the league's Offensive Player of the Year. Montana State safety Caden Dowler was named the league's Defensive Player of the Year. MSU junior quarterback Justin Lampson was named the league's Newcomer of the Year. And Montana State fifth-year head coach Brett Vegan was named the league's Coach of the Year. Gilman rushed for 1,262 yards and scored 19 touchdowns to earn the award. He headlined a group of 18 Grizzlies who were named All-Conference, including 5 on the first-team offense and 2 more on the first-team defense. Quarterback K'Alii Ayat, tight end Evan Schaefer, left tackle Cannon Panfloff, and slasher Michael Wortham as an all-purpose player were named to the first-team offense. Defensive end Hunter Peck and linebacker Peyton Wing were named to the first-team defense. A total of 16 Bobcats landed on the All-Conference list, with 4 earning first-team All-League for the 2-time reigning league champions. Dowler was joined on the defense by defensive lineman Paul Brott and Kenneth Eden. Taco Dowler, Caden's twin brother, was named first-team All-League as a punt returner and second-team as a wide receiver.
This is Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Radio Missoula.
If your other man come to claim you, he better be ready for a long, hard fight. Well, I got to be strong. Well, I know you're depending on me. You know I got to be strong. I know you're depending on me to give you all of my attention, all of my time, and all of the love you need.
Keep those texts coming in. You want wings at the Desperado Sports Tavern and Grill? Text us, 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. Any all text will get you in to win wings, courtesy of the Despo. Wing it Wednesday, every Wednesday here on Nuanez Now. You missed anything in the show? You can always find it on the podcast. Heard from Sam Herder, Hero Sports, talking inside the FCS. Also heard from Adam Jones, Missoula Sentinel product, who is a Montana State Bobcat now. And to give you my 2 cents on Eli Gilman, who, by the way, will join us later on here in the show, about 5:30. Gilman will join us for a fun interview that I actually recorded earlier this week. But gave my 2 cents on Gilman, the Offensive Player of the Year in the Big Sky Conference, not being named a finalist for the Walter Payton Award. All of it on the podcast, available on all your various podcast hosting platforms. Please rate, review, subscribe, all those fun things. We're coming to you at the Grizzly Disposal Studio. If you're watching on TV, you can see that. We have our nice Grizzly Disposal logos. Grizzly Disposal can also get you logos with on your garbage receptacles. They have Grizzly Scholarship Association maroon carts. That helps you give back to the GSA, good cause. They also have pink carts from Chicks and Chaps, which helps give back for cancer research, breast cancer awareness, things like that. They're always giving back to their communities because they are locally owned, veteran-owned, and the only bears that should be in your garbage. To switch to a locally owned waste management company today, call 541-7171. That's 541-7171. ESPN Roundtable, probably presented by Stockman Bank of Montana. Stockman Bank has locations in Montana, only in Montana, and they plan on keeping it that way. Let's talk some FCS playoffs.
Time for our ESPN Roundtable, FCS playoff style. We're checking in now in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Tanner Castora, who covers South Dakota State, joining us here on Nuanez Now. He has joined us previously on the Big Sky Breakdown podcast, but we got a huge matchup. I would say the game of the week in the FCS coming up in Missoula, so figured we get some insight into the Jackrabbits. Tanner, thanks for being here, man. How you doing?
Appreciate you having me on, Culture. I'm doing well. How are you?
Very good. Thanks so much for asking. First of all, tell people about your background covering South Dakota State, because I know it's an interesting one. So just take people through sort of your recent history covering SDSU, particularly with the aligned timing of this awesome run that South Dakota State's had over these last 6 to 8 years.
So I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. After graduating from Kent State about 4.5 years ago, I applied around the country, was hired by the CBS news station in Sioux Falls as a sports reporter and an anchor. And during those 2 years, they assigned me to cover South Dakota State football. So I started in 2021, did that until 2023 with the news station. And as you mentioned, that was right when the program was kind of taking off. They'd come close, got to a semi, broke into a national championship, ended up winning 2 of them. So I've been there throughout all of those, covering the program. And then the last 2 years, I stayed around, started doing some freelance work, some independent work, all while working on a book that I've been writing titled Stig and the Rise of South Dakota State Football. For those who don't know, John Stiglmeyer, longtime head coach of South Dakota State for 26 years, led the Jacks to their first national championship and retired off into the sunset. And him and I had a really good relationship. And so it's kind of his biography / an inside, behind-the-scenes look into the program. So I've stayed close with the current program, the past guys as well. So I've been selling this book and covering the current team as well.
That foundation is such an interesting part of this whole story. The fact that John Stiglmeyer was there for more than a quarter century, and then even when he handed it off to an alum who played for him and Jimmy Rogers, and then he handed it off to his best buddy and Dan Jackson. So it seems like even though there has been a little bit of turnover after so much time without any turnover at South Dakota State, it doesn't seem like it's that much different. I talked to Coach Jackson this morning, and so much of the stuff he was saying about the tenets of the program and all that, I mean, it sounded like I was talking to Jimmy Rogers, and it sounded like I was talking to John Stiglmeyer. So that must help, though, in terms of sustained success at South Dakota State, having such a consistent sort of bloodline, so to speak.
Yeah, that's exactly how it feels. And it's like Coach Stig is no longer in the building, but you can feel almost his presence, because the foundation that he laid, well, part of those guys who helped build the culture were the assistants. Dan Jackson, head coach at South Dakota State right now, was one of those guys. So you'll hear many times throughout his press conferences or when you're talking to him, a Stigism, if you want to call it that. Like, one of them is, your injured players are more important than your healthy players. Those are the guys who are struggling right now, probably mentally more than anything. They can't be out in the field. You need to devote a little more time to those guys and even the guys who will take the field. So you'll hear things like that all the time. And yeah, there's no question about it that the culture that has been built over the decades is still in place.
Take us through this South Dakota State season, because when you and I talked last, it was headed into the Montana State-South Dakota State game, which was a absolute throwdown and lived up to the billing, and it was a double overtime classic. And Montana State at that moment was licking their wounds. They haven't lost since. South Dakota State kept winning, but then they fell into this rut and they lost 4 in a row. But they're back on the winning side, 2 in a row in the win column on their way to Missoula. But just take us through sort of the ebbs and flows of the South Dakota State season and why maybe they have the 4 losses in the loss column.
Well, I've only been here for about 5 years, but with the book, I did a ton of research into the program's past. I would venture to say there has never been a more emotional roller coaster of a season ever. You start with the coaching turnover, right? Like, literally the building was empty. Dan Jackson comes in, has to build a staff from scratch. Then months later, they have what was going to be their starting running back, Nate White, pass away. Then the season starts, and it's like a pleasant surprise. It's like, wait a second, like, we knew they'd be good, but wow, are they great? Because they started 7-0, had some big-time wins over Sacramento State to start the season. You mentioned it. They go on the road, get an awesome overtime victory against Montana State. They're 7-0. Everything is as it was, right? They're a dominant force in the FCS. Then all of a sudden, Chase Mason, starting quarterback, who is going to play in the NFL eventually, he goes out. They replace him with Luke Marble, second string guy. And things just don't quite click. And he actually gets replaced by Jack Henry. But throughout that time, they fall against NDSU, who looks to be, again, the class of the FCS. And we all thought South Dakota State could hang with them. Well, they entered that game without Chase Mason, and it wasn't close, 38-7. Then they fall to Indiana State, which was a bit of a shocker. Now it's like, wait a second. Have the wheels completely fallen off this thing? They're 7-2 now. They go on the road to play South Dakota, a really important in-state rivalry game. And that's when Jack Henry, the third-string quarterback, took over. And they actually fought in that game. South Dakota State showed up, but USD, they look like they might be a factor in the FCS playoffs. They're another team who has had a strange but interesting season where they kind of started out and it's like, well, they might not even scratch they might not even be a wild card team. They have no shot. Well, all of a sudden, they figured it out. They're an 11 seed. They could be a story in the FCS. But the Jacks go into the Dakota Dome. They lose by 7. Then they come back home, and it's Illinois State, a quality program. And before you could blink, it was 35-0. South Dakota State was losing 35-0 at home to a conference opponent. People left the stadium in the first quarter. Legitimately were filing out of the stadium in the first quarter. So they're 7-4 at that point. They had one game left in the regular season, and that was against North Dakota. North Dakota, just like the Jacks at that point, they believed they were playing for their playoff life. It was a win-or-go-home game. The game is in Grand Forks. The Jacks go into there. They're trailing by double digits in the second half, and they have a dramatic comeback. They win in overtime, and a great throw and catch from Jack Henry to Graham Goring. They advance to the playoffs. So you talk about a up and down swing of emotions and events. It was honestly pretty fun to cover this team this season.
Right.
Because I'm sure you can relate to this. And I do think there's a lot of good in the FCS, but it has gotten watered down. And when we're talking about the top of the top teams, the Montana schools, the Dakota schools, to be honest with you, the last couple of years, it's like, our job is to talk about the game and break it down. Well, the truth is, it's like, they're just better.
They're just better.
They're just better, right? Well, this year it's actually been like, wait a second, we have some storylines. There are some ebbs and flows to this season that we didn't expect. And it turned out to be a team that fought through adversity, got to the playoffs, and then Chase Mason comes back last week and looks fantastic. So it's been a really exciting year and a very memorable year at that as well.
Tanner Castora joining us here on ESPN Radio. He covers South Dakota State. They're in Missoula on Saturday for the second round of the FCS playoffs. Third year in a row, Montana and South Dakota State have met in the postseason. One last question about sort of the breadth of this season. The lull, do you point mostly to the injuries? Do you point to the first-year head coach? Do you point to just not having your quarterback? What was maybe the primary factor in South Dakota State's slide?
Well, it's injuries, and it's not just Chase Mason, but they lost some of their best defensive players. They lost not just Chase, who's their best offensive players, but their weapons, Lofton Ogrowski. If you go back and watch that Montana State game, he had like 130-some yards, 2 scores. He didn't play the last second half of the season. Sam Hagan, probably their best offensive lineman, he hasn't played. And if you look at the way this team is constructed, they're top-heavy. What happened to them in the offseason, losing all of the players they did, right? Now, not only did a lot of them go to Washington State, but several of them are playing in the Big Ten. Like, they lost a lot of talent. Now, they retained enough talent that if those guys were playing, they were going to be an elite team in the FCS. And we saw that through the first 7 games. But when you lose those top guys, they just didn't have the depth to replace them this season. And so you saw a drop-off. Now, I think through the last month, they've gotten better. These young players, I mean, they're playing true freshmen at running back. They've got a redshirt freshman at quarterback who literally hadn't played until this season. So these guys are getting their footing, and then to slowly get some pieces back, especially Chase Mason, makes a world of a difference. Like, to see them last week against New Hampshire was like, it was kind of shocking. Like, they suddenly looked like the team we saw all season long. And one guy can make that big of a difference. Well, that goes to show you how important it is to have a quarterback that can play. And not that Jack Henry couldn't, but Chase is a different level. And also the team just feels a bit different swagger when they've got your guy in the pocket. So I would attribute the struggles to injuries because the staff had done a good job. But again, they were a top-heavy team. And when a couple of those pieces go out, it's a different squad.
It's so fascinating because I watched them live in Bozeman week 2. Thought they looked really good. And then I watched them against North Dakota State when it was 1 versus 2. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, does Chase Mason make this much of a difference? Because after that game, I think a lot of people around Montana and around the Big Sky Conference watched it, and they were like, well, NDSU's winning another one. And I think that they're still the cream of the crop for sure, but it isn't as big of a disparity as we saw in that 38-7. And then the next week, a lot of people were following the Indiana State game because Indiana State had played in Missoula earlier this year. They're thinking, oh, South Dakota State only scored 12 points at home. South Dakota State's dead in the water. But then I watched South Dakota State again these last 2 weeks, and they look back to being really, really good. So I am having such a hard time analyzing this game we're going to see on Saturday because I just don't know which version of the Jacks is coming to Missoula.
Your guess is as good as mine, but I would say this. If you were, let's say you're a movie director and you're writing a script and you want to build momentum into the final home stretch, this is exactly what you would do. I mean, that moment against North Dakota, the final regular season game of the year, was a breakthrough moment for the program. They had lost 4 in a row. They were reeling, but it felt like they were, it wasn't like they were giving up. Like North Dakota State was whooping their butt in the first half. They fought in the second half. Then they had a demoralizing loss against Indiana State. They fought the next week against South Dakota. Then they go down 35-0 against Illinois State. They were a drop touchdown away from making it a one-possession game in the fourth quarter. And then they fought and came back against North Dakota. They break through at that big moment. And then the next week, you insert Chase Mason back, and now it's like a wave of energy has been inserted into this program. And it'll be interesting to see if Montana, it's kind of the opposite. Because, right, they had a bye. They had, there's always rest versus rust, that argument. But I can tell you this, South Dakota State feels really, really good about themselves heading into Saturday.
ESPN Roundtable probably presented by Stockman Bank of Montana. Stockman Bank in Montana, only in Montana, and they plan on keeping it that way. Let Stockman Bank show you Montana's brand of banking. The 2021 South Dakota State team, that was their first year covering them directly. I asked Dan Jackson about this morning, too. Seems like there is some parallels there because that team had some close losses, had some injuries, and then they got hot at the end, and then they won a couple road games and got all the way to the semis, and that really set the stage for then going back-to-back. And I know Mason McCormick has talked on this show about that, how to sort of learning the hard way, taught those guys to get to the top level. Do you see parallels between that 2021 South Dakota State team and this one?
Slightly, yeah. I think one parallel is that team had to beat North Dakota in the final game of the regular season to advance the playoffs. And then, their season ultimately ended against Montana State in the semis. I would reverse it and flip it towards the Grizzly because, what that season did for South Dakota State in 2021, their year ended in Montana against Montana State. The following season, they faced the Bobcats in the semifinals and they were like out for revenge. Well, if you look at the Grizz right now, they've lost to South Dakota State 2 straight postseasons, particularly last year in Brookings. Now the tables are flipped. The Jacks are coming out to their home turf. So I would expect that to be, that to play a factor in that locker room. I'm not sure how much it will for South Dakota State because a lot of these guys, didn't play big roles last season. Chase Mason didn't, play against them. Like, I don't know how much it will affect South Dakota State as far as that goes. But, yeah, there's certainly parallels to this team at South Dakota State than we saw, a few years back where it's like, hey, they started to get it going late and they made a deep run into the playoffs.
Tell people more about Chase Mason. I've got a chance to interview him a couple times this year. Awesome dude. I mean, really an infectious personality, certainly. But he's a hell of an athlete, too. And obviously, you mentioned it. I mean, you could just see the elevated confidence that the entire organization has with him at the helm. So, I mean, just break it down. What makes him a special player?
Well, he's like an old country boy, right? Like loves fishing, hunting, true South Dakotan.
He said that. He said he found out about the coaching change while he was ice fishing with all his buddies. He was like a couple hours late because he hadn't looked at his phone or whatever. I said, that's great. That's so South Dakota right there.
Yeah. He's a true South Dakotan. And he's a kid who wants to be a jackrabbit. And that's, cliche, and you can say that about any program, but this dude is about to turn down legitimately millions of dollars to remain at South Dakota State. He was going to, actually, he did go to Nebraska for a year to play baseball, and he was an MLB prospect. And after 1 year decided, I want to play football, and I want to play for South Dakota State. So it's a kid who appreciates the program, who has felt a tie to the program, and waited his turn. It's not like he just came and was handed the keys to the car. He had to sit and sit and sit behind Mark Gronowski, all while knowing he is fully capable of leading this team. And, a lot of people thought Mark was going to leave after the 2023 season, after winning 2 back-to-back national championships, had incredible opportunities to go elsewhere. Mark comes back, and Chase had to remain patient. I mean, it still is admirable that he decided to stay. He waited for this. Like, this is what this kid has been waiting for. And he finally gets his opportunity. And to be honest with you, we'd seen him play sparingly the years before in kind of like a running role. He was a guy who is a great athlete. I mean, he is every bit of 6'4", 235. Every bit of it. And he can run like the wind. And so they were using him as a runner the last couple of years. Well, honestly, I thought you'd see more of that this season. It was clear from the jump. He's a pocket passer, right? He's going to scramble and buy time to throw. He's not going to take off and run unless he has to. So I think that was somewhat of a bit of a surprise because we just haven't seen it before. But, man, you go to practice and you watch the quarterbacks go through drills and, little 2 throws at a time and on to the next guy, and he's got 2 throws. The ball comes off his arm differently. Just does. I mean, he's got a whip. It's a cannon of an arm, and it's very noticeable when you're watching it in person. So he's a guy who, and I think, too, I want to point this out, we might not have realized the kind of leadership that he brings to this team. It's almost like his stock has risen by him sitting on the bench, and the team has almost like maybe appreciated him more deeply with him back in the lineup. So he's a guy who embodies South Dakota State, and it's someone who clearly has a grip on what this program is and what they want to become.
ESPN Roundtable previewing Montana's playoff game against South Dakota State. Tanner Castora joining us here on Nuanez Now, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, and the ESPN MT app. What's your gauge on just what people in South Dakota think about this game? Because this is sort of the renewal of a little mini rivalry, right? The Grizz and Jacks have played 3 years in a row. I think this is the 5th or 6th time they've played, in sort of the modern era of South Dakota State football, so to speak. So what's sort of the general perception in South Dakota land about Montana and coming to Missoula?
I don't think people know what to think. I seriously don't. Like, I talk to people heading into the playoffs, and there seemed to be not too much optimism, to be honest with you. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, maybe we can do this.
Right.
I think people really don't know what to expect. And I'll say this, I don't know that, the pundits that are supposed to know do either. If you look at the line, I think the Grizz are favored by a point or 2.
And it keeps moving, right? I mean, The national line had South Dakota State favored at 2.5. The in-state line had Grizz favored at 2.5, but both have moved right to the middle to make it like a pickup.
Right. It literally has the makings of an all-time great game. It really does. Like, you study these teams, and I would be surprised if we didn't see a decent amount of points. Like the way that these teams can throw the ball, the weapons on the perimeter, I would expect a very exciting game. So from the people I've talked to here, I don't know that anyone really knows what to expect, but I can say this. They're a lot more excited about this team than they were just a couple weeks ago. That is for sure. The excitement and the anticipation for this game is certainly building.
Well, the one factor that I'm pointing to, because like I said, I think there is a lot of mystery over which SDSU team we see. Obviously, they've been banged up big time, but I do think that the shot in the arm that Chase Mason brings with his return is so big.
I also think that it's not uncommon to see teams like South Dakota State really turn a corner, towards the end of the year and play really well in December. But I just wonder about the pressure in this game, because it seems to me like South Dakota State was considered dead in the water, and they're sort of playing with house money because they got a first-year head coach, and they weren't supposed to really – first of all, they were supposed to be here, and then it was perceived that they blew it, and now they're back in this position. Whereas Montana, I think this is an unbelievably pivotal game for Montana. I've covered Grizz football for 19 years. I think it's one of the most pivotal games in the history of the program because – you can't go 11-0 and then lose on your home field twice. You've only lost at Washington Grizzly Stadium 37 times in the last 40 years. You can't go 0-2, especially to two of your not just rivals, but also FCS peers. Because like you were just saying, I mean, there's just 4 or 5 schools that are just better than everybody else. Mm-hmm. And the fact is, you're going to get a chance to play 2 of them in a row if you're the Grizz, and if things go according to plan, you might be able to play Montana State again too. So I just think there's so much pressure on the Grizzlies. What do you think of just that dynamic?
That's a great point. And I want to quickly say this too. I know we texted about this. Brutal draw for Montana. Brutal draw. Brutal draw for both these teams, honestly, right? South Dakota State probably, quote unquote, deserves it more because they lost, 4 games in a row. But I don't think that at the beginning of the year when you're preseason number 2, you were expecting to go to Missoula in the second round of the playoffs if you were Dan Jackson, right? No question about it. You're right. But for Montana to be a 3 seed and get rewarded with South Dakota State in the second round, that's tough. But to your point, I was at practice yesterday. It's like a jovial, happy to be here feeling. I'm not saying, obviously I wasn't at Montana practice. I don't know what it's like. My point is, they didn't know if they'd still be playing together. And the fact that they are, and the fact that, we just kicked New Hampshire's butt. I'm telling you, that's a great point. They really do feel like the pressure is not on South Dakota State. If South Dakota State loses this game, I will tell you right now, it's a successful season. It's a successful season. They continued the playoff streak. You got to the second round with everything that I mentioned at the start of this interview that has happened in this season. To win 9 games is a good year. It's a good year. It's a good building block for Dan Jackson's first season with the program. You flip it to Montana, you lose this game, you end the season, as you just said, with the loss against your rival, and then in the second round at home. It's not going to bode well with the fan base, and it's not going to bode well with that program, and it shouldn't, right? That's a blue blood in the FCS. They have higher expectations than to make it out of the second round. So I think that's a great point. The pressure in this game, you have to imagine, is on the Grizz.
Anything else to add or anything you've been working on this week that maybe people would find insightful on the Montana side of things leading up to this game?
Nothing on the Montana side. I can tell you guys this. I'm actually flying out there. This will be my first time ever in the state of Montana. I have always wanted to go to a game with the Grizz, and I'll be there. So I'm looking forward to doing that, have some coverage on that. But as far as anything I'm doing, I just have a couple things with my book I'm putting together. It's about South Dakota State football. And I can tell the fans this. There is about 3 to 4 pages of a game in 2009 that I know people will remember. South Dakota State, it was their first ever playoff game as an FCS opponent. And they get the 1-seeded Montana Grizzlies. And South Dakota State led that game in the second half 41-14. And they ended up losing. Grizz came back and won that game. So there is a couple pages in here. I write in detail about that game itself because it was kind of a pivotal moment for South Dakota State's football program. But, yeah, just working on advertising my book, getting it into the hands of more people and getting this thing out there.
Well, very cool, and we appreciate you for taking some time. I was thinking about that 2009 game a lot this week because Yale's comeback against Youngstown State reminded me of that. That was the only game I could think of that was sort of like that because Yale was also down 42-14, come all the way back and win 43-42. But certainly a lot of history that's been built over the last 15 or 16 years between these two teams, and we appreciate you for helping us preview it.
No question, man. Honored to do it.
Fun having Tanner on. Tanner Castora, our ESPN Roundtable. ESPN Roundtable, probably presented by Stockman Bank. Stockman Bank invites you to experience the Stockman difference. As a family-owned community bank with locations throughout Montana, Stockman Bank committed to enriching the lives of Montanans and helping communities succeed. What that means to you is your money stays in the local economy, supporting your friends and your neighbors. Stockman Bank. Montana's brand of banking. The Big Sky Conference Offensive Player of the Year, Eli Gilman, our guest next. Don't change that dial. Keep it right here. More Grizz Jacks coming your way. It's 102.9 ESPN Radio.
You know all that gunk that gets stuck on the bottom of your car? It's nice that the city of Missoula de-ices the roads for us, but that stuff can really hurt your paint job and erode the undercarriage of your rig. That's why it's important to keep your car clean all winter long at Dazzler's Car Wash. Get yourself an unlimited membership at Dazzler's Car Wash. For just $37 a month, you can get your car washed every single day. Treat your car like it deserves to be treated at Dazzler's Car Wash of Missoula, located at 2610 Radio Way in the Garden City.
Winter is a long season in Montana, and Black Mountain Lawn and Landscaping is ready to help. From leaf and debris removal from lawns and gutters to tree removal or decorating and hanging lights for your business or property. They'll even handle snow plowing to keep your home or business looking great all year. Ready to unload the junk before the heavy snow hits? Don't wait. Let the pros take care of it for you at Black Mountain Lawn, Landscaping, and Junk Removal. For a free estimate, visit blackmountainlandscaping.com, call 406-529-0793, or email Dave at blackmountainlawns.com.
How do you pay for your school, take care of your family, and still find time to pursue your career? Just ask Sergeant Amy Acosta. She's worked hard, studied hard, and joined the U.S. Army Reserve. She's received tuition assistance for college, health care coverage for her family, and the skills she needs to pursue a career as a senior systems engineer. The choice to train at least 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year have made a huge difference in her life. Army Reserve soldiers help lead efforts in more than 120 occupational specialties, including public affairs, paralegal, medical services, engineering, and more. Part-time service, full-time success. Learn more at GoArmyReserve.com.
Canyon River Golf Club is the premier public golf course in Montana, but after enjoying one of the great seasons in the golf course's history, the club is officially closed for the season. But if you're a golf enthusiast, you're already dreaming about next golf season, so give the gift of golf from Canyon River. Canyon River's early season rates for season passes, cart passes, and more are now available at a special holiday and early season price. To buy your pass, visit CanyonRiverGolfClub.com today.
Vertical Raise is the top fundraising platform, no matter what sort of organization you need to raise money for. Vertical Raise is an industry leader with elite technology that can help you reach the most vast audience possible, in turn, delivering a bigger check for you and your organization. In 2023, Vertical Raise Montana helped raise more than $1.5 million for high school sports organizations around the Treasure State, and the returns were more than 30% greater than any other fundraising program. To find out more about how Vertical Raise can deliver your organization the biggest check possible, visit verticalraise.com.
All Nations Health Center is proud to share that they have officially purchased the Women's Club in Missoula. This marks a significant moment in All Nations' story and history, giving the organization a permanent home and a place where they can continue to grow, care for their relatives, and deepen their commitment to community health and healing. Owning this space means stability, strength, and the opportunity to better serve patients in the Western Montana community in a way that reflects the values and mission of All Nations. For more information on everything All Nations has to offer, follow All Nations on social media or visit allnations.health.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Montana and Montana State cleaned up on the All Big Sky lists released last week. Hello, I'm Jeff Safford. The league released its annual All-Conference Awards and teams the day before Thanksgiving. Montana running back Eli Gilman was named the league's Offensive Player of the Year. Montana State safety Caden Dowler was named the league's Defensive Player of the Year. MSU junior quarterback Justin Lampson was named the league's Newcomer of the Year. And Montana State fifth-year head coach Brett Vegan was named the league's Coach of the Year. Gilman rushed for 1,262 yards and scored 19 touchdowns to earn the award. He headlined a group of 18 Grizzlies who were named All-Conference, including 5 on the first-team offense and 2 more on the first-team defense. Quarterback K'Alii Ayat, tight end Evan Schaefer, left tackle Cannon Panfloff, and slasher Michael Wortham as an all-purpose player were named to the first-team offense. Defensive end Hunter Peck and linebacker Peyton Wing were named to the first-team defense. A total of 16 Bobcats landed on the All-Conference list, with 4 earning first-team All-League for the 2-time reigning league champions. Dowler was joined on the defense by defensive lineman Paul Brott and Kenneth Eden. Taco Dowler, Caden's twin brother, was named first-team All-League as a punt returner and second-team as a wide receiver.
Nuanez Now on ESPN Radio.
Welcome back. 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, and the ESPN MT app. Colter Nuanez coming to you through the Grizzly Disposal Studio here at the Missoula Broadcasting Company. Grizzly Disposal, locally owned, veteran-owned, the only Bears that should be in your garbage. Time for our latest Grizz Star of the Week. It's probably presented by Dazzler's Car Wash of Missoula. If you would like a free car wash, actually a free gift card to Dazzler's, $25 worth, text us right now, 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029, and treat your car like it deserves to be treated all winter long at Dazzler's Car Wash. This week's Grizz Star of the Week, the Big Sky Conference Offensive Player of the Year. Time now for our Grizz Star of the Week. We check in now with the recently anointed Offensive Player of the Year in the Big Sky Conference, an All-American candidate and a junior running back for the Grizz football team, Eli Gilman, our guest. Eli, thanks for being here, man. How you doing?
Of course. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Very well. Thanks so much for asking. First of all, we got to start with the award. Big Sky Conference Offensive Player of the Year comes out last Wednesday. You're the winner. So how'd you find out? What was your reaction to knowing that you've been picked for such a prestigious honor?
I found out from a buddy texted me and said congrats. And that's how I found out first, because I was in class when he texted me. But I don't know, it's sweet. I think it's kind of like a team award in a way, because I obviously can't do anything by myself. But I also think that there's multiple players on the team that could have got it. But it's sweet for sure.
Well, that was the cool part about it, right? Is I thought that probably three of the top candidates in the conference were yourself, Kaylee, Ayat, and Michael Wortham, and I was wondering how that was going to go. But I mean, obviously, just a testament at the end of the day to the prowess of the Grizz offense. So, what in your mind has helped you guys be so effective this year? Why have you been able to be so prolific just as a total offensive unit?
I just think we've been doing a really good job at utilizing all of our weapons across the board. And kind of like what you said is like kind of how we've been all able to succeed so well is because we're doing such a good job of like putting everybody and getting the ball to the playmakers. I don't know. I feel like we've just been doing a very good job of putting our playmakers in good positions. So that's a testament to the coaches and their strategy as well to help us get in those positions.
It's been awesome, really fun to watch all the stuff that Brett Pease has been able to cook up for you guys. So there's a certain sequence you guys have a lot where you get a big gain and then you run the hurry up and Wortham is operating out of the Wildcat. When you're doing that, how fun is that? And what goes through your mind when you're running that sort of stuff? Because that seems like it just puts the defense on their heels just to the maximum.
No, yeah, for sure. The defense, you can see them all kind of scrambling what to do when he's at quarterback. Every time, and I think it's fun. I think it's sweet having the option to, keep it or give it and all these things, because I know we can both be dangerous with the ball, and it definitely puts the team in the defense in a bind when he quickly switches over to quarterback.
Well, the other thing that's been so fun from our seat to cover is just the progression and the emergence of Ayat. And I mean, he's just grown so much. I mean, you could see him get better throughout the season, even from September to now. He's right. Tremendously better too. So you've watched him grow throughout his whole career. I know you guys knew he had potential, but now he's fulfilling it. What's it been like to watch him grow? Where do you think he's grown the most?
It's sweet. I just think he's gotten more confident in his play, because everybody here has always known he can ball. And it's sweet to see his confidence kind of take over on the field. And to show really like what he can do on the field. And I'm just proud of him. He's worked so hard at it. He deserves it all. So it's sweet to watch him become the player he is working so hard to be.
Eli Gilman joining us here on ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television and the ESPN MT app. He is the Big Sky Conference Offensive Player of the Year after scoring 19 total touchdowns for the Grizz. I mean, that's the other part, right, is you get a lot of the credit for scoring a lot of the touchdowns, but you got to be in the position to be there, right? And you guys have been so efficient in the red zone particularly. What's led to that, and how has that just helped set you up to have so many trips to the end zone?
I kind of just think it goes back to the play calling and getting the guys the ball. But yeah, like the line does a good job, like every single day, every single play on doing their part, because obviously nothing's going without them. So I just think we just work really well together as a unit, and the line understands the pass and run plays and the explosives that can happen, especially with like Mike at quarterback. And yeah, we all just been clicking super well this season, and it's super fun to be a part of.
And I got to ask you about your little brother playing on the team now, too. I know he was on the squad last year, but now he's getting some touches in games, and it seems like he's becoming a little bit of a fan favorite, because I think people realize pretty quick that he's lightning in a bottle when he gets that ball in his hand. So it must be a cool experience for you and just your whole family as a whole to have both you guys playing for the Grizzlies.
Yeah, no, it's for sure sweet. I'm glad he's getting there, getting some touches. It's fun to see him run a little bit because I've known he could run forever. It's sweet for him kind of show off his ability. And then my family, they love it. They love it a lot. My mom loves it. But no, it is sweet, and I'm blessed to be able to play with him at multiple levels in football. But it's sweet to play college football with your brother.
It was so funny when fall camp last year was rolling around. Me and Sammy and Cam were down there watching, and we're like, man, who's the little short guy? And they're like, oh, that's Eli's little brother. And we're like, is he going to be able to make it? And then he just cooked a dude in a one-on-one. We're like, oh, he's going to be able to make it. So you've seen it in him from the beginning, though. You knew he was going to be able to translate to this level.
Oh, yeah, I knew he'd figure it out. I always say, like, if you're going to be that small, you better have some type of speed with you. So he's got it for sure.
Definitely. When you mentioned your mom, and Don has become, I think, one of the biggest Grizz fans in the world. It's been so cool to see just how much she's fallen in love with Missoula and the program. And she stopped by our pregame show a couple weekends ago. She's got a Bobcat pelt around her shoulders, and I mean, it's so fun to see how much she's just leaned into it. So that must just help you out so much, just in terms of a confidence standpoint, and just knowing that you have so much support from your parents, but especially your mom.
Yeah, for sure. She's always been there, and it's sweet to know that at every level or any kind of place I go and play, because Montana's far away from Minnesota, kind of, in a way, and it's sweet to know that she's always there supporting, and yeah, she's made her name known around here, so.
Yeah, she knows everybody. She's you can definitely tell that she's worked in politics before, because she's certainly made a lot of friends around these parts. Eli Gilman joining us here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. When it comes to this, what's been the thing that you've enjoyed the most about your time in Missoula, outside of football? Obviously, you love winning games, you love scoring touchdowns, all that sort of stuff, but what sort of things have you just really liked about your experience at the University of Montana these last 4 years?
Yeah, you're good. I'd say my favorite part about it is just the people I've met here. I mean, I'd say even the transfers come in and say, like, they've never had, like, a brotherhood like this. So I'd say it's just the people, my boys I met here. And then, obviously, I love the mountains. I love outdoors. Like, I just love Missoula, especially in the summertime. I love getting in the river, too. So I kind of fell in love with this place ever since I got here. So
I know you've become a little bit of a great soccer fan, too. And what a great year for them. That was a thrill to watch that championship game. That's one of the great sporting events I've seen in the last couple of years. So from your perspective, just, cheering on your girlfriend and having a front row seat to all that must be so cool, too. So what have you thought of just the ability to sort of lean into some of these other Grizz sports?
Yeah, no, it's sweet. It's kind of how the Grizz community works. I feel like they're just super supportive of all sports, and it's kind of sweet to be part of a fan base of another sports team, and especially to see them succeed so well. And it was sweet to see a bunch of people turn out and show up to their games this year as well. And I don't know, it's just kind of sweet to see Missoula come together and cheer on sports as a community.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true, and it's definitely a great sports town. Last couple of things for you. What do you think of just the spot you guys have put yourselves in? You get the 3 seed in the playoffs. You had last week off. So how are we feeling going into the second round of the playoffs? What do you think of just the position you guys have put yourselves in as the third-ranked team in the country going into this bracket?
I mean, yeah, we're the third-ranked team in this country. We've got to play every week like we deserve to be here. We prepare every week like we deserve to be here, and we prepare every week to win. So that's kind of what we're going to continue to do day in and day out. But this week we're focused on the Jackrabbits, obviously, this week. So that's what we're preparing to do this week, is to beat those guys.
Well, you've seen them before. You've seen them the last couple of years. So what's your initial thoughts just on this year's matchup, and probably happy to have them at your place this time?
Initial thought is that we owe them one. So, we're definitely happy to have them here this time. So it's definitely our turn to get this done. Eli
Gilman here on Nuanez Now. Eli, we appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much for joining us, and go get them on Saturday. Thanks for being here.
Will do. Thank you.
Grizz Star of the Week, Eli Gilman, Big Sky Conference Offensive Player of the Year here on Nuanez Now. Keep those texts coming in if you want a gift card to Dazzler's Car Wash. $25 coming your way, 406-888-1029. Text us. You'll be entered in to win free Dazzler's Car Washes. Treat your car like it deserves to be treated at Dazzler's Car Wash of Missoula. More FCS playoff talk on the other side. Don't change that doc. Keep it right here. It's 129 ESPN Radio.
Colter Nuanez here from your favorite daily sports talk show, Nuanez Now. I know most of you are like me. You keep your precious car outside in this frigid Montana weather. If you want to change your outlook on those freezing Monday mornings, do what I did. Get yourself an automatic car starter at Aspen Sound. Aspen Sound will install the starter for you efficiently and keep you warm. Aspen Sound can also hook you up with sweet window tinting or a top-notch sound system for your vehicle. Stop by Aspen Sound at 1300 West Broadway in Missoula today.
Feel the music at Aspen Sound.
Missoula, get ready. The rivalry takes the ice as Grizz Hockey battles Montana State at the Glacier Ice Rink Friday night at 7:30. Don't forget, it's the annual Teddy Bear Toss. Bring a new stuffed animal and launch it onto the ice after the Grizz score their first goal. All teddy bears will be donated to Watson's Children's Shelter to help make the holidays brighter for our community. Hard hits, big goals, and Cat Grizz. Friday night at 7:30 inside the Glacier Ice Rink. Be there and bring a bear.
Canby Tap House is well known around the Garden City for its peerless selection of draft beers. Breakfast at Canby is also worth a sterling reputation. From breakfast burritos to chicken fried steak to delicious daily specials, Canby Tap House has excellent breakfast for your weekend brunch appetite. Canby also has a full coffee bar offering bold and delicious espresso and other specialty coffee drinks. Canby Tap House is family friendly and conveniently located on Higgins, across from South Campus Stadium and Dorn Blazer Field. Come enjoy the best breakfast in town at Canby Tap House.
Attention students, Missoula Electric Cooperative is currently accepting applications for their 2026-2027 scholarships with up to $33,000 available for local students. If you're an active NEC member or a qualifying dependent, you could earn a $1,500 scholarship to use at any accredited college, trade, or line school in Montana. But don't wait, the deadline is January 23rd. Apply for one of 22 scholarships today by visiting MissoulaElectric.com.
You might be thinking, what's the big deal about a kids menu? Well, once you have kids, you know. It seems like it's getting harder and harder to find kid-friendly meals at affordable prices. At Paradise Falls, the kids menu is not only diverse, it's a total steal. For some of the cheapest prices in town, you can get hamburgers, mac and cheese, and other kid favorites for super low prices. Paradise Falls is a family-friendly restaurant open 7 days a week. Come enjoy a meal with your kiddos in Paradise at Paradise Falls, 3621 Brook Street, Missoula's coolest hotspot.
If you're in search of a trading card of your favorite player, or if your kids are, swing into Zootown Sports Cards. If there's a card of a player you're searching for, Zootown Sports Cards has the cards. With an almost endless collection of singles and inserts, whatever and whoever you're in the market for, Zootown Sports Cards has it. 1990s NBA stars, Zootown has it. 2000s football players, Zootown has it. And looking through the collection is half of the fun. Come check out all of what Zootown Sports Cards has to offer in the Stevens Center in Missoula.
It's Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Watch the show statewide on SWX Montana Television.
Trying to make a train at sunrise. I'm gonna have to run a red light. Trying to make a train at sunrise. Gonna have to run a red
Welcome back. 1029 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, and the ESPN MT app. Colter Nuanez coming to you through the Grizzly Disposal Studio. Grizzly Disposal, locally owned, veteran owned, the only bears that should be in your garbage. There is some sort of scandal brewing, and I've actually been hanging on my seat about this. Josh Margolis, who is a former radio colleague of ours who now works at NBC Montana in Butte, is a former colleague of Jeff Safford. They lived up on the High Line together, and actually got to know those guys because one year we were finalists for Sports Coverage of the Year, and they were too. And I think we won, and then Josh wrote me a nice email saying congratulations, and then I got to know about him, and then all of a sudden Jeff Safford, he starts reaching out, and it's sort of a fun connection, and both those guys done a great job. And obviously Jeff is our voice of the Paddleheads, the voice of Grizz Hockey. He's going to start chipping in on some prep basketball stuff too. He and I just had a quick conversation about that, so he's going to have some interviews for you next week, helping preview high school basketball, so that'll be fun. Looking forward to what Jeff puts together. But anyways, Margolis is somebody that I've known from the radio world, and now he works in TV, but he lives in Butte, and he dropped earlier today because the NAIA playoffs is in full force. Montana Tech's undefeated. They had a nice win over Carroll College last week. And he said, he started teasing this a little while ago, actually. But he said earlier today, the NAIA football news that's about to drop is going to be a stunner, and it'll have a direct impact on the current postseason. He then goes on to say, there's a lot of questions that need to be asked about the NAIA and the offending institution. This will all come out. It'll put a potential stain on the entire postseason. Then he went on to say, still waiting on a formal announcement. Nothing I've heard in the last few hours has contradicted initial reports. All indications are a team is having to forfeit after fielding an ineligible player. So basically, I think the NAIA playoffs is either the round of 16 or the round of 8. I think it's 8. Somebody's getting disqualified is what this implies. And I mean, Josh is a trustworthy reporter, so I don't think that there would be anything but, like, he wouldn't put this out there in public unless this is true. This is as of 4 minutes ago. He says official announcement tomorrow coming from the NAIA. Again, I don't want to speculate or whatever. I don't know what this is about. I don't know what this is implying. But I know the NAIA is small potatoes compared to, the other college football, but it's a big deal in Montana because there's so many Frontier Conference teams that reside in Montana, and those are usually contending teams in the NAIA playoffs. And Montana Tech is absolutely a contending team, and they're the 3 seed, so they could definitely make a run. They're already in the midst of a run. So I don't know if this has to do with Tech or if this has to do with another NAIA school. So stay tuned for that, because that's some juicy stuff going on. And I mean juicy in the worst way. Like, scandal is interesting, but it's never good. And from a reporter's perspective and an analyst perspective, it's not fun to cover. So I hope everything is all good. I mean, selfishly as a Montanan, I hope this has nothing to do with Montana Tech. I played high school football against Kyle Sampson, and I followed his career forever. His father, Mark, recruited me hard up to Montana State Northern. I thought about it. And those guys have done a crazy good job in terms of their impact on football in the state of Montana, whether it was Mark at Helena Capital or then as the head coach at MSU Northern or Kyle at Montana Tech and the run that he's been able to build. So just selfishly, I hope it has nothing to do with Montana Tech. I hope it's an NAIA thing that does not affect the state of Montana. But sounds like, per Josh Margolis, that we will find out tomorrow. The other news that was interesting earlier today, and I think that probably anybody that follows social media and the coaching carousel, if you are a follower of Montana State, Montana, or North Dakota State, you probably had varying reactions to when Chris Kleiman announced his resignation at Kansas State. Kleiman, of course, was one of the great coaches at North Dakota State. He was a part of a run that saw the Bison win 5 straight national championships. He was the head coach for 2 of those. He himself won 4 in 5 years as NDSU's head coach before taking that Kansas State job. And the reason I think that obviously be of keen interest to those 3 fan bases that I mentioned is, one, Kleiman did a good job at Kansas State. He said he's resigning to take care of some personal stuff and want to spend more time with his family, which who could blame him? And so if you're NDSU, you're thinking, okay, Tim Polasek, he got his contract extension. He was in the mix at Colorado State, didn't take it. Was in the mix at Oregon State, didn't take it. He signed up through 2027. Oh, whoa, what if he goes that way? Kansas State's one of those jobs where the money's so big that, NDSU could come up with enough money to make it sort of same as Oregon State. Probably not Colorado State, but Colorado State's a mess. So I can totally see why Polsek wanted out there. And Kansas State, they've had their ups and downs or whatever, but they have a great foundation. Bill Snyder was there forever and did a good job, and they got money. So that if you're a Montana State follower, what would concern you? Oh, well, you already made it through the Brett Vigen scare at Oregon State. You think he's staying? I mean, Kleiman and Vigen are about as similar as they come. Vigen would be a money replacement for Chris Kleiman if Kansas State wanted a similar tenor and tone to their program. And then if you're Montana, you're watching with your popcorn. It's the meme with Michael Jackson eating popcorn in the movie theater, right? Because you're sitting there thinking, oh, man, we'd love for Tim Polsek to leave, or we'd love for Brett Vigen to leave. Hopefully one of these guys goes. Well, all of that was for nothing. There was no scare to be had because when Kleiman resigned and announced it and it became official, That job was open for about, I don't know, an hour, maybe 90 minutes. Then Colin Klein was named the successor. Colin Klein, a former all-time great Kansas State quarterback, who then has been the offensive coordinator there in Manhattan recently. So one more door closes on the coaching carousel. So sounds like we'll have a little bit of rest in the coaching ranks at the FCS level, especially among those top tier. I mean, I don't really think there's anybody really to watch except for Brett Vigen and Tim Polsek. Bobby Hauck certainly has a ton of wins. I just think at 61 going on 62, and have already gone to the FBS, already coached at UNLV and San Diego State, and now you're back at your alma mater. I just don't think I just don't see Bobby Hauck rolling the dice. I think he's going to try to be the head coach of Montana until he doesn't want to be the head coach of Montana anymore. And God bless him. I mean, knowing where you're at, what you got, and the advantages you have, it's a beautiful thing. And so again, I think that the coaching carousel, I don't think there's really anybody on the watch right now other than those two, but that's another door that's shut. And now I think probably, especially with the jobs that might open, out west or in the Midwest, I think we're about done. But we'll see. You never know what's going to happen. Last note, I thought this was sort of cool and probably of interest to people that follow the Big Sky Conference. Jason Eck did a great job at Idaho in his 3 years there in Moscow. Got the Vandals of the playoffs 3 times in a row. Had some signature wins. One in Missoula, his first trip to Washington Grizzly. Beat Montana State the following year in a top 10 matchup. Won a couple playoff games. And then he took not only his talents, but a lot of his roster from Idaho south to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Well, the Lobos, if you haven't been following along, they finished this year 9-3. They're bowl eligible. They should have been in the Mountain West Championship game, but a stupid computer formula ruined that. That's a whole different route that we could go in terms of a rant. But the point here is that Jason Eck yesterday was named the Mountain West Coach of the Year, and his son Jackson Eck, who was a first-team all-conference player last year in the Big Sky, he was named the Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year. So pretty cool for the Eck family. Good things happen to good people, and those are good people. So regardless of if you don't like Idaho or you didn't like Eck's bravado or whatever, he's a great dude. He's a great coach. And the fact that he's got Big Sky ties and now he's doing well at the Big Sky, that's good for the Big Sky brand. So congratulations to Jason Eck and his son and all the success they've had there at New Mexico. We'll be back at tomorrow live from Cache One Pond. We'll hear from Dan Jackson, the head coach of South Dakota State. Brooks Nuanez on all things FCS or NFL and more FCS playoffs talk as well. We'll see you at 4 p.m. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio.
Did you know that if you have dense breasts or any